Welcome back to Comicstorian. Today, Matt Murdock is going to finally begin to realize what happens when you murder somebody. This is the Comicstorian channel where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. I take the bare bones plot to a storyline, turn it into a synopsis, and I tell you what's going on, allowing you to go to your local comic book store or digital retailer, pick up the books, get more context, or pick up where we left off. All alterations to the panel text and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Today we're going to be continuing our Daredevil coverage. When we last left off, Matt Murdock was a little rusty when he got back into the Daredevil suit, and seemingly killed a man. He was going around trying to figure out who possibly could have framed him because there's no way he could have made that mistake. But as he was finally arrested, somebody opened fire on the entire New York Police Department. And that man was Frank Castle, Punisher, rescuing Daredevil. Matt was coming out of it again. You could hear that familiar heartbeat, steady, unflinching. The heart of a psychopath. There was another one. Scared. Different. Matt finally opened up his eyes and his senses told him that Frank was nearby. Well, welcome back, pal, Frank says, smiling down at Daredevil. Gotta admit, been feeling like a bit of a stalker lately. Been following you, Red. Like what I've been noticing. The freak with the code finally seeing the light, he says as he reaches down, tightening the straps on Daredevil's gurney. Doing what needs to be done. You take a swing at the devil, you don't get back up. Though, killing a liquor store robber is a little much, even for me. But Daredevil is shaking his head. Frank, you psycho, I didn't. He struggles to argue, but Frank is across the room looking at the thug that he has tied up to a chair. Sure you did. Give me a sec, pal, gotta tend to something. He asks the goon where the Owl's drug operation is based out of, hitting him hard across the face, not believing his answer. But Matt can sense the man is telling the truth. The two things I hate in my home are liars and phonies, Frank says, turning back to Matt. He looks at the devil, pointing out that he's been a phony ever since the day that they met, pretending that he cares about the victims, but just letting the scum live long enough to make more victims. Daredevil's listening, but he continues to struggle at his restraints. So am I right, Red? Are you done being a phony? You're a psychopath, Frank, Matt says, trying to keep Frank talking as he continues to attempt to free himself. Justifying murder? It's all you've ever done. A man who thinks he's above the law, Daredevil tells him, but Frank shakes his head, pulling out a pistol, pointing it at Daredevil. He asks Daredevil why doesn't he just put a bullet in this man now, prevent him from going back out there. You're gonna tell me what, he's the next Tony Stark? He's gonna turn his life around? Frank asks, turning back to Matt, but Matt shakes his head. He doesn't know the man. He doesn't know what he's been through, but points out that lives are complicated. And Frank scoffs. Not so complicated that you won't break his nose or bust up some ribs, huh, Red? If I let this guy go, he's gonna kill someone. He pushes the gun against the man's head. So are you ready to stop it? Do I let him go? Do I let him kill again and again, Daredevil? Or do I end this now? Daredevil pauses. Frank, he has people who love him. Everyone does. Let him go. Fine, Frank says, cutting the man free and turning away. Not sure where he's going to go in these tunnels, but the thug stops, seeing a rifle that Frank has left by, and he goes for it. He raises the weapon, preparing to fire, but a pistol shot echoes in the room, and Frank's round has entered the man's skull. No! Daredevil screams. That's better, Red. Find a guy that's gonna put up a fight and kill him in self-defense, huh? Daredevil begins to struggle against his bonds, finally ripping them free and charging at Frank. For the last time, I didn't kill him! He bellows, whirling around, knocking the pistol out of Frank's hand, but the Punisher kicks him in the stomach, sending him flying through a desk. I really hoped you changed, Red. I know you're a killer. I see the glee when you fight. And he points out that he's a math guy, because Frank's math says that if he takes out one bad guy, more good guys get to live. Matt reaches for another rifle that has fallen nearby, making sure it's loaded. I bank on you not stopping me, on you growing up and finally doing what is necessary. Frank shouts, raising his own rifle, taking aim, but Daredevil fires around the corner, the round hitting Frank in his Kevlar. The force knocks him down, sending him into a wall. Still going for Kevlar shots. I think deep down you want me out there, doing what I do. Daredevil leaps out from behind the desk, firing two pistols as he dives through the air, the rounds ricocheting and knocking Frank's pistols away, stunning him and grazing off his shoulder, leg, and neck. Frank grunts, reaching for the wounds, trying to stop the bleeding as Daredevil steps before him, raising both pistols, aiming it at his head. Frank, do you have any idea the level of carnage I could unleash with a gun in my hand? It's no contest. You're amateur hour, Punisher. Matt can sense the explosives nearby and he turns to the weapons. You're a demon, sure, but I'm the devil. He hisses as the guns go off, the explosions ripping through the room, stunning Matt's hearing for a moment. Frank tries to move to fight back, but Daredevil hits him hard, chopping his throat, throwing him into a wall. I'm not a murderer, because if I was, you'd be dead, he says as he stands over Frank. Frank's smiling. It'd be worth it, knowing you became better than me. Frank hits him one last time, knocking him out, and then he picks him up, dragging him out of the lair, away from the fires. He will never become Frank Hassel. It's his biggest fear. So much so that he knows that he's been denying the facts. He dumps Frank on the ground and falls to his knees. I killed a man. He finally admits to himself, pulling off his mask, staring into the void. He has to be better. He has to prove himself. He reaches into his pocket, pulling out one of the pain meds, throwing it into his mouth. I have a job to do. The only thing that matters. Meanwhile, at his apartment, Detective North steps out of the shower with his phone ringing. He picks it up to hear Mayor Fisk's voice, who praises him for his attempted apprehension of Daredevil. The mayor promises that he will face no ill consequences for his actions. But North stops listening, hanging up the phone, sitting alone in the darkness of his apartment. Outside of a diner, two cops step out to find Frank Castle on the hood of their cruiser. They turn, looking for the source of the deposit, and they look down a nearby alleyway to see Daredevil limping away wearing a Punisher t-shirt. One begins to raise his weapon, but the other stops him, shaking his head. Daredevil thinks to himself, time to go to work. Meanwhile, the Owl sits comfortably going over his paperwork while his lieutenant gives him updates on the operations. He looks up briefly at his security cameras, shocked to see a familiar horned vigilante standing at the entryway. It's him! At the front door! Kill that buffoon and get the drugs out of here! He shouts as he jumps out of his seat. The lieutenants rush downstairs, ordering the men to load up the vans and prepare to move. They head to the door, throwing it open, preparing to fight the Daredevil, but there's no one there as one of them pulls out his pistol. He steps cautiously outside, but they don't see Daredevil over by the door, and he leaps down, landing on the guy's back. Daredevil will never die, Matt thinks to himself, leaping into the room, immediately fighting against the Owl's thugs. He throws kicks and punches, knocking them away, grabbing a pistol from one's hand, using it as a throwing device, knocking the weapon out of another. But a heavily armored thug rushes forward, his fist slamming into Daredevil's face, knocking him down. The Owl's going pro, hiring enhanced goons. Daredevil thinks to himself as he struggles up, feeling the last several days' worth of beatings. Heard a lot about you, toughest guy in the city. But from where I'm standing, you're nothing. The goon smirks as he reaches down, grabbing Daredevil by the throat. But he doesn't see the hero grab a chain and hook, or him hooking it onto the back of the man's armor. Well then, you need a fresh perspective, Daredevil tells him with a bloody smirk, the drug van suddenly taking off, dragging the armored thug with it. Daredevil grabs hold, riding him as the van heads out into the streets, reaching down, pulling the thug's pistol off of his hip, carefully taking aim. The gun thunders in his hand, hitting one of the van's tires, forcing it to swerve, flipping through the air. Well, that's over. Daredevil thinks to himself as he struggles up, but then he turns his head, sensing that he was wrong as the rest of Owl's goons are catching up with him. He grabs one of the van's doors, using it like a shield as the goons open fire, and he leaps among them, using the door as a weapon as he takes down the whole mob. But there's just too many. One stabbing him in the side as they all begin to hammer into him, raining blows down on his head. He's about to fall, but suddenly, he's not alone. Thank God. My friends. He thinks as Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage launch themselves into the fight, Daredevil struggling away, slumping against a car. They know I'm a murderer. Take me in. He suddenly realizes, but then it all goes black. He sits upright quickly, shocked to find himself lying on a couch. Whoa, man. I just patched you up with some very expensive Kunlun medical bandages. Please don't unpatch yourself just yet, Danny tells him as he pushes him back to the couch. Daredevil sits up, looking over at Luke and Jessica standing nearby. What were you thinking? Going in there alone? What the hell is going on with you, man? Luke asks, but Matt shakes his head, telling his friends that he knows why they're here. He tells them that he knows that he's been erratic. He wanted to show them that he could still be a hero, and he admits to them that he killed that man. I wanted to do one last good thing as Daredevil. Before you guys took me in, I'm glad it was you guys. I'm glad friends are here to arrest me. But the others just look at each other. Look, Red, We're not here to take you in. We're just worried about you. Fighting with cops, your Punisher cosplay? Jessica asks, and Matt is shocked, surprised that they know about his fight with the Punisher, but Danny points out that he's wearing a Punisher shirt. I never noticed. I needed a shirt, Matt whispers as he looks down at his shirt in shock, and Luke stands up, giving his friend a pep talk. He understands that Matt is in rough shape, but tries to explain what happened was an accident. That it's happened to all of them at some point, that they've accidentally killed somebody at some point. What? Matt says in shock as Jessica agrees. It happens. You deal with it and you move on, she explains to him. Matt stands up, disbelief on his face. My God, we're all murderers, he whispers, still in shock as his friends try to help him. Danny tries to calm him down, but Matt finally agrees, asking him which way is the washroom so that he can clean up. It only takes a few minutes before Luke Cage walks down the hallway, kicking in the door, finding Matt has slipped out the window. He finds his way home, pulls his broken body up the fire escape, and he slips in through his window. He pulls off his Punisher shirt, throwing it on the ground in disgust as he pours himself a whiskey and pulls out his pain meds. His mind is still reeling. He doesn't know what to do as he sits in the darkness. He needs time to heal. He needs time to meditate. But then what? He thinks to himself, and that's when he senses that someone is in his home, someone unnaturally quiet, someone who is pure power and doesn't know it. The best of us. Daredevil thinks to himself. Daredevil, Spider-Man says quietly from the corner of the room as he walks forward. I followed you home. Normally, I'd never be able to follow you, but you're obviously not yourself, he says as he looks at the bottle of whiskey and pills. Daredevil stands, still not feeling himself. You shouldn't be. He begins, but Spider-Man stomps him. Don't worry, I didn't look at your mail, I didn't snoop. I don't know who you are, but I'm not talking about your identity. He tells him that he understands what happened, that he's been there. He's had to do some soul searching afterwards. But what you did afterwards, terrorize your neighborhood, fist fight with cops, your latest sloppy fight where our buddies had to save your butt, you're a mess. You're in trouble and on a suicide mission, and I'm here to tell you, you're done. Spider-Man tells him, and he explains that they all know that there will come a day when they can't do this job anymore. I'd hope someone would step up and tell me when my day comes, and right now, it's your day. It's over. You need to stop. Matt looks at him for a moment before nodding, pulling off the mask. You're right. I know you're right. I can't do this anymore. He looks down at the mask for a moment before tossing it to Spider-Man. The wall crawler turns and walks away, leaping out the skylight, leaving Matt Murdock alone in the darkness, tears flowing down his face. And there you have it, issue 5 of Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky. Now, we're probably going to blitz through a good chunk of these next, but as I said, this is going to be a continual series with multiple cliffhangers. It's 37 issues total, so it's not like I can just do all 37 in one sitting. We're probably going to do the next one that'll give me some good clickbait, like this one with Daredevil versus Punisher. I'll find another good versus fight and just do the chunks all the way up to that, but I hope you guys are excited. Don't forget, this series is not going to get a lot of good views. I don't know why, but Daredevil just never has done well on this channel. So if you want to see it keep coming to the channel, we need to see likes, we need to see engagement, because that will get it out to more viewers so that we have a reason to keep doing this series. I really appreciate all of your guys' support up until now. The first video got an amazing response, and I really do appreciate that. And at the end of the day, guys, I'm here for you. I'm trying to do videos that you guys want, but I also have to play the YouTube rules. So don't forget to like, subscribe, leave me a comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time right here.